Hi, it's the gardening astronomer back again. This will be part 3 of the Midsummer Garden Tour. So this time of year, um, being near the coast, mornings are very foggy and dewy, uh, which is probably not bad for the garden, but eventually the fog will burn off and we'll have a nice sunny day. I'm showing off our rhododendron here. It has a really good showing this time of year. We're very happy about that. Let's go have a look at the garden. So here's the cold frame that I use to keep things over the winter and get an early start to the spring vegetable season. Over to the left you can see there's some, it's a bit of a jungle, but there's some mustard and arugula that I'm letting go to seed so I can collect the seeds for future harvests. In the middle I've planted some eggplant and some hot peppers. I think that's a good place for them since this is a sunny place. And over here there's a couple of parsnip plants that I've also let go to seed so I can collect my own seed for next year. Of my 3 raised beds, this one is closest to the sun, and so this is where I plant my cucumbers and tomatoes on trellises on this corner. Let's take a closer look. So there in the middle I have a brandywine tomato that I bought as a transplant, and I'm growing that. There's a little watering unit behind it that I use to get water straight down to the roots. To the lower right there's a lemon cucumber that I hope will grow up that trellis. In the back there's another brandywine tomato, and you can see we have a few flowering perennials tucked into our raised beds to attract pollinators. Here at the left there's another tomato that I got from a friend. It's called a rainbow blend. I've never grown those before. In the middle I've transplanted a couple of romaine lettuce, and there's some kale in the back. It's a little shadier at this part of the garden. And here are my pole beans that I planted a couple of weeks ago. I had to replant some of them. I had old seed that didn't come up. In the space below the pole bean teepee, that's where I place my worm condo. So I put in scraps when I'm weeding and so on in the garden, and I have a bunch of worms down there, and I make my own compost right in the garden. In the early part of the gardening year, this raised bed gets the least amount of sunshine, so I plant a lot of spring vegetables and salad greens and such. Over to the left there's a row of romaine lettuce, and then there's some endive, some more kale, bok choy. I believe there's a second round of arugula. This stuff here is called wok brock. Still haven't made my mind up about that. My wife says it's a bit bitter tasting, but maybe I'm not cooking it right. In behind there's some Lola Bella Rosa lettuce that I grew from seed that I collected from one that I grew one year. They don't look very prolific, but I've been actually stealing leaves away from them most days, so I kind of pick leaves as they grow. And then over here I've got some carrots and a few beets. It's hard to tell the beets, but there's beets coming up in there. And along the middle I'm growing some parsnips. I think I might have to reseed, but I'm growing them along the middle of the bed. And here I have a row of runner beans, scarlet runner beans, and next to that I've got a little bit more mustard coming up. In my third raised bed I'm growing beans. There's some other runner beans growing up that trellis, and then I've got my bush beans, both yellow and green varieties. There's 2 plantings of those. My first planting was semi-successful, so I had to replant. So there's plants of various ages there. And this bare spot here, I'll be doing some succession planting of beans in there. And over at this corner, I've got some spring greens I'm growing, and eventually they'll be harvested, and I'll make room for more beans. And here are my peas, which are now flowering. So that's the third raised bed. I was telling a friend the other day that it's been a strange year for gardening, but then I realized that actually every year is different. Some things work some years, and then they don't work another year. You just keep plugging away at it. If something doesn't grow, you just replant and start again. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour. It's always a lot of fun for me to come out in the garden and see how things are working out. It brings me a lot of joy, and it also relaxes me quite a bit from the other things that I do, which are more intellectual. Gardening is a great stress reliever. So thanks for tuning in, and have a look at my channel for some other interesting videos. And I apologize for the background noise, but it just never seems to be quiet around here. Thanks for watching.